The more aggressive, psychopathic boys, they simply don't care. So they'll be the ones fathering your grandchildren in the future, if tomorrow's woman can find a man to sleep with at all. You have no idea if I'm your enemy. You have no idea about me.
You won't use my pronouns, so I'm pretty sure you're my enemy, yes.
Yeah, well, I know you think that, but I don't believe that using your pronouns is going to do you any good in the long run. I think it'll do quite the contrary.
What?
The sleep of reason creates monster, and you little bastard, you little hipster behind the camera, you slept on your balls and you have created gender pronouns the world didn't need, dude. The world didn't need those fucking pronouns, and you had to share it with everybody. You had to share them with everyone. Look what you have done, you motherfucker. Look what you have done. Look carefully. You have created the Canadian Jesus Peterson, and now we can't get rid of him. You two are like parasites feeding off each other, feeding off of all of our bodies and creating turds of retardation, little red pills and wokeness for idiots. And now Jordan Peterson rises like a phoenix, spreads like herpes across the YouTube algorithm. What have you done, my dude? What have you done? Why is this happening? We all know why. The sheeple need a shepherd.
I came all the way out here from Pennsylvania because he came to me at a point in my life where I really needed someone to look up to.
If you're highly educated, you realize where he's coming from. But if you're not highly educated, you understand what he's saying. This guy is got magnetism.
Dr. Peterson has changed my life. He has reminded me that I should first and foremost clean my room.
Why do you make your lips red? Because they turn red during sexual arousal. That's why. Why do you put rouge on your cheeks? Same reason.
The Dark Professor is talking sexual assault. Good thing I have the third rape eye to see the wisdom. Bucko, this is Jordan Peterson's script. We're all just living in it.
Antidepressants work on lobsters.
Tales from the crypt.
If Jordan Peterson is Jesus, I am the Antichrist. There has to be, where there's a Batman, there has to be a Joker. And I guess the joke is on me because I'm filming from a bedroom in my mother's house. My dudes, Jordan Peterson has given an interview with Vice. It caused waves, dude. In all the autistic socialist republics of the Peterson Union, there has been butthurtness to spare. It was just waves of indignation about the Dark Professor once again being insulted by the mainstream media that either has a cultural Marxist agenda against him or just doesn't get the clean your room bucko wisdom. They're not connected with the Rick and Morty wisdom there it takes to understand Jordan Peterson's prescription about lobsters and the alpha posture. So the Weeping Canadian gave an interview to Vice News, another Canadian company trying to define our lives. And they did a whole segment about him, which was 10 minutes. Clearly not enough for that, storm of red pills that comes with Peterson. But 5 minutes, of that video was dedicated to just introducing who the hell he is, because some people actually don't know. Believe it or not, there are people who don't know who Peterson is. I know it's a crazy idea for his fans. And then they had a condensed version of his interview for the remainder of 5 minutes. And so the big controversy has to do with the fact that Peterson sounded like he was justifying sexual harassment in the workplace and by saying that women shouldn't wear lipstick and heels to work. Now, in the extended interview that was later published on Vice, that extended interview was treated by, butthurt Peterson followers like some revelation. I mean, they've been studying these two tapes, one the edited version of the interview and the unedited, like they were like the fucking Kennedy assassination, and there are a bunch of videos where they compare the two. But basically, they've added up some more retarded shit Peterson said, but it made him sound a little bit more nuanced. So whatever, I guess you could say that Vice was somewhat unfair to him in the way they cut their shit. But here's the thing. I'm not gonna go for this shit. What Peterson does is he dwells in this ocean of his fandom, in the ocean of the righteous YouTube, the critical thinkers, the independent thinkers that are just repeating the same stuff over and over again. And he's a big superstar there. And then periodically he surfaces into the world of mainstream media. And inevitably, he gets some sort of a spanking. And then this whole episode becomes a huge event once he dives back into the ocean. We all remember the tears we shed during his interview with Channel 4, Kathy Newman, or whatever her name is. So unfair to Peterson. We all cried. I cried so much I fucking slipped on my tears. Good thing there was a $2,000 rug, the meaning of music rug, that Peterson sold me on Twitter, so I didn't hit my head on that. But yeah, what a huge event! What a huge disaster! It's almost like the Syrian refugee crisis when it comes to world tragedy. That Peterson was asked some provocative questions. So that was the last event, and now this. And Peterson loves this shit. Like, Peterson is a culture warrior, and he just, I'm not gonna feel bad for this fucking archetypal, pseudo-philosophical Miley Cyrus, Peterson being outraged about this Vice interview or the interview with Channel 4 is sort of like, you remember when this was a thing to flash your vagina, when Britney Spears and then Lindsay Lohan, it's like, whoops, I wasn't wearing any panties and I spread my legs in front of, 20 paparazzi and now half of Japan is masturbating to me. Well, this is kind of the way it is with Peterson. He knows what he's doing and he comes there and, he's very provocative and rebellious. So, fuck this whole theater, it's just kind of like one big wave of cash donations to his Patreon. My homies, my ninjas, here's the thing. Right now I'm going to provide some constructive criticism of Jordan Peterson's interviews and his statements, but I want to say up front, I'm not going to go for this outrage, he's sexist type of a shit. I'm just not into it. Sometimes it's warranted, but who has spoiled the whole thing, and it's just not something I'm going to dive into, and I'm not interested in that as well. Even if Peterson was, if I considered him sexist or racist, that doesn't automatically mean that a person like that, everything that they say is stupid. And what I will focus on is exactly that. I'm going to focus exclusively on the stupidity of what he's saying, on the goofy, stupid nature of what he's saying. I will expose Dr. Peterson as the culture warrior that he is, as the group thinker, and as an infantilizer of men. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, dude, you will. My man, Peterson has red pills. I get red pills of my own, my dude. So, fucking A, dude, get ready. Hand in your fucking prescription or whatever. We're going to the pharmacy, dude. the red pill pharmacy. Oh, how do I end this fucking shit? Red pill pharmacy, dude. Here comes the clip.
Do you think men and women can work in the workplace together?
I don't know.
Without sexual harassment?
We'll see.
We'll see. How many years will it take for men and women working in the workplace together?
More than 40.
To get a sense. More than 40?
We're new at this.
We're new at this.
Absolutely. We're completely new at it. It's only been a couple of generations. That's part of the problem, right? Is that we don't know what the rules are.
This asshole doesn't know if men and women can work together. You want some rules? I got one rule. I got Ivan's golden rule that's gonna solve this whole thing. My dude, you know, feeling hot and bothered at the workplace, head on over to the bathroom, dude, and spank that monkey. You gotta punish that monkey, dude. You gotta, you know, really wrestle with the devil. And some people frown on this. Some people frown on this, you know, masturbating at the workplace. Why? You know, why? It's like the most hygienic thing that comes out of your disgusting body is your sperm, straight from the testicles and into the toilet. And if you get a little spillover, be decent, you know, don't leave your seed there stranded, you know, send them on a little journey, on the little waterworks journey there, the water park down the drain. No reason to be a dick about this whole thing, no pun intended. Just be decent, my man, you know, clean the room, and bucko, don't forget to clean the toilet at your workplace where you've just masturbated into. Now, once you will experience the climax, you're going to experience something else we're all familiar with, and it's just this utter, all-encompassing sense of meaninglessness. It's like you've been so focused on something, for perhaps an hour of thinking about it or less, but at least a few minutes of total concentration on something, and then poof, it goes away into nothingness. It's just complete nothingness, and you're drained in literal and metaphorical ways, and in testicles as well. And so you're going to head back to your pointless cubicle, and the legs of Megan are not going to bother you anymore. Because you'll just be in touch with the meaninglessness of the whole thing. And by the whole thing, I'm talking about your life, dude.
Because
what are the rules that govern sexual interactions between men and women in the workplace?
yes.
The answer is, we don't know. Right. So I'm throwing out some questions. How about makeup? Oh, that's okay. Is it? Why? Why is it okay?
Well, I would think that there's certain ownership over one's body that they can take without...
How about negligees?
Well, look, if you
That's
had
going too far.
If you had a workplace with negligees, I think that there would be some sort of standard idea that maybe that would be a sexualized...
Okay, so there's some line between lipstick and negligees that
Yeah.
we don't want to cross. Okay, fair enough. Where exactly is the line?
How about makeup, you Asian stoner? How about makeup, How about hair extensions, How about expensive hair extensions from Eastern Europe, How about a little camel toe? A little camel toe at the office? Are you gonna be thirsty in the desert, Are you gonna want to ride the camel, to the water fountain of HR, The interviewer is goofy as well. He's a big goofball because he don't concede anything to this fucking Peterson because he's gonna run with it. He got a lot of archetypes stored. He got a lot of blue ball archetypes that are gonna explode in your face once you make one concession to this fucking douchebag. Don't go for it. No concessions. Guess what, my man? If I worked in an office where every woman, wore lingerie, I'm sorry, English is my second language. Sometimes I mispronounce things. If I worked in that office, sex would be the furthest thing from my mind. Because I don't know, at least here in the States, you know, we got an issue with sugary drinks and other ways of excessive caloric intake. So if I really saw these ladies, with lingerie, I fucking wouldn't want to have sex for ages. Thank God for clothes. But even if I was surrounded by very hot ladies, the exceptional ladies I would be surrounded with, I still don't want to fucking be infantilized to the point where I would be forced to sexually harass them. Like, I might be an animal, but I'm not such a primitive animal. There are certain things I can't control. I can't control dirty thoughts, and I can't control staring, so that's kind of an idea of a man, wrecking his car because he was distracted by a pretty lady. I'm sure it happens every fucking day. Every fucking day it happens. Like, I don't even want to look. I don't even want to look at female flesh. And sometimes I'm at Walmart and I regret it. It's like my gaze directs that way. Or sometimes I'm driving and I look, and I look at some legs, and then it turns out I'm checking out some fucking hipster and fruity shorts, This is what it forces me into. It's just a nightmare. It's kind of a nightmare and you can't control it. But as far as actually doing something, yeah. Like, I've never heard of a lot of rapes at well-populated beaches. Now, women are half naked, and somehow it's strange that men who seem to lose, well, those men who rape at least, seem to lose control when they're in the privacy of their apartment or the girl's apartment, whatever. They lose control. But here, nobody loses control at a well-populated beach. It's very strange. It's almost like most men can control themselves. And even when it comes to these comments and stuff, yeah, you can control them. I guess if you work at a strip club, you can say, hey, nice boobs, if that's acceptable, that your boobs look great today. Maybe at a strip club that's acceptable if you're a security guy or something. But even if it wasn't acceptable, you wouldn't fucking say it, because men can control what they say. They can't always control where they look, and they can barely control what they think. And who can control fucking what they think? It's just like advanced meditators in Tibet or something. But aside from that, when it actually push comes to shove, you can't fucking control it. And here's the whole thing. Nothing is that complicated with the rules. Rule number 1, no touching. Rule number 2, don't superimpose your sexual desire on a person who doesn't want it imposed on them. A very simple rule. And most men who sexually harass, they know exactly what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they get enjoyment out of women being uncomfortable. It's like, this is an extreme example, but why did Harvey Weinstein, masturbate in front of women mostly? I mean, he raped some and groped others, etc. Why did he do it? Because it's an exercise in power, it's an exercise in control. You get a high out of it. It's a special high that sexual harassers enjoy. And once again, the problem of sexual harassment, I'm just gonna say it, it's not a problem for most men. There is no fucking crisis with most men. It's almost like Peterson is engaging in the reverse of the worst of feminism, where it's like, why are men raping? Well, fuck it, I haven't raped anyone. Ladies, 32 fucking rapeless years. Message me out through my Facebook page. 32 rapeless years, my ladies. 1992, rapeless year. The Soviet Union was collapsing, a lot of tumult. I was 6 years old, a rapeless year. 2004, totally rapeless, a totally rapeless year. 2008, Barack Obama was elected. I was looking forward to all the racial harmony we enjoy today. Not a year for rape, 2008. And ever since then, ladies, no rapes. 32 totally rapeless years. Put a finger on a calendar date. Rapeless. And I think that with all crime, sexual harassment is perpetrated by a minority of people who have a disproportionate impact. You don't lock your car, you don't lock your house, because most people are gonna try to steal shit, because you know that a minority of criminals are gonna do it. And it's the same thing here. And Peterson, by doing this shit, it's like, I don't know if men and women can work together. Motherfucker, most can. Most can, you stupid shit. Don't put me into your fucking culture war. I'm not a fucking infant who can't control myself. And if I tell a lady at the office, hey, why don't you sit on my face? I would be I would know exactly what I'm doing. It wouldn't just fucking, I don't have fucking sexual Tourette's. So please don't put me in your victimhood category with your retarded fans who hang by your every word. You know, I am in control of my actions to the extent that any of us have free will anyway, but that's another discussion to which I've dedicated 50 minutes on this channel that very few people watch. So let's move on.
Problem of sexual assault on campus. We can't even have an intelligent discussion about that.
Well, I think that perhaps the problem would be that, you know, women get raped quite a bit in colleges. Like, do you feel like that's a problem? Or do
I
you
don't think that that's a very good way of stating the problem.
I don't know how to more clearly state the problem, which is that
the
women
problem
get
is
raped in college.
that sexual behavior in young people is complex and dysregulated and often fueled by alcohol. And so all sorts of things happen that people regret and don't like. And we have no idea what to do about it. And so we're setting up a parallel judicial system to deal with it in a manner that's going to make it far worse.
Well, how does it make it worse though? Because this is the
How
other
about-
thing.
how about unwarranted accusations?
I would agree with you that a lot of times that these sorts of sort of administrative or judicial things that are created do have a lot of collateral damage, and that
they're all collateral damage. We're transforming the universities into quasi-judicial enterprises. They don't have the expertise for it. It's hard to set up a court system. It's really, really, really hard. And to set up a new one by proxy, where no one has any delineated rights of defense, for example, where you use preponderance of evidence, and where people are enabled to go on witch hunts, it's like, that's not going to make anything better.
Imagine that Jordan Peterson had a candy company, like Archetypal Candy, Peterson's Archetypal Candy Company, and he would, sell different gummy worms and different gummy bears and different gummy products with made after the face of Carl Jung and different hero archetypes, whatever. You could buy all that shit at Peterson's candy store. And let's say there were multiple stores, and I was like a manager of one of those stores at the Peterson Candy Company, whatever the fuck it's called, and I would be the manager, and I would hire a person to, a clerk, whatever, to sell actual candy. And this person's name would be Little Peterson. Now, Little Peterson would be of no direct relation to Jordan Peterson. He would just be a bucko, a little Canadian douchebag, Little Peterson. And he's working at this candy store, and I get a report that Little Peterson, there was a little boy buying gummy worms, and Little Peterson said, "I'd like to play with your gummy worm," and kind of stared at him in a strange manner. And so I call Jordan Peterson and I say, Boss Fedora, I have a problem here with that little douchebag Peterson, the bucko. And I tell him, he seems to be a pedo. Like, this is not a normal thing to say to a child, and like to play with your gummy worm and stare at him. And Jordan Peterson would say, listen, we're not gonna set up a quasi-judicial system here. We're not gonna do it. And we're not gonna, take into account the preponderance of evidence. This is a serious accusation, being a pedophile. You have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And so we're going to keep him employed until there is a criminal conviction against him. And so Little Peterson would continue working, because that's clearly the rational and the normal thing to do. You don't set up a quasi-judicial system if it could be somewhere in the criminal sphere, like being a potential pedophile. It's just, now if Little Peterson would steal some gummy worms, presumably we could fire him, but maybe even then you'd need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Maybe, the camera just went out on its own in the store and somebody sneaked in while Little Peterson wasn't paying attention and stole the gummy worms. It wasn't Little Peterson. So the point I'm fucking making is that they're not setting up quasi-judicial system in the sense that a judicial system can put a person in prison. And because it's the state putting somebody in prison, the maximum weight of evidence is demanded, at least hypothetically, beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not the level of doubt that we operate in daily life. And that's not the level of doubt that's used by companies to terminate people. So for example, when a university kicks somebody out for plagiarism, do they prove it beyond a reasonable doubt or just with a preponderance of evidence? Does their intent matter or does it not matter? There would need to be different classifications of plagiarism. And I doubt that most universities have them. Maybe they do, fuck it. And so that's, as far as I'm aware of, the only power universities have is to expel people. Now, should the only reason universities expel people is when there is some sort of somebody's been proven to be a criminal in the criminal court, so plagiarism or everyday theft or anything else that could classify as such, you wouldn't be able to expel them from the university because that would be a victory for feminists. I mean, I'm sure that there were false accusations. I don't see any signs that it's some sort of a wild epidemic. If it is, then Peterson should present statistics. As is, it's just universities expelling people who they have found on the preponderance of evidence to be rapists. Now, presumably universities would have an interest in doing that so that more of their female students don't get raped. That could be one of them, that they have a responsibility to, in the same way that if you have a company and somebody has been credibly accused of rape and of another co-worker, even before the criminal trial, you might want to let them go. So you can say that these mechanisms aren't perfect or that they result in injustice, like every single form of judicial system that human beings are involved with. It could fuck up. You could say, a potential rapist, even if there's good evidence but not good enough for the court system, should remain a student at the university. So Peterson should just say that. But he should also acknowledge the evil of that. He should say that this is the lesser evil, but it's still an evil. That's what a nuanced thinker would say. Rather than having these quasi-judicial systems that they call them, you just to keep the potential rapist even though there is decent evidence that they did it. But Peterson doesn't present it as such. He just presents it as this caricature of feminists and social justice warriors, destroying the lives of innocent men left and right without any statistics. Peterson, in spite of being a clinical psychologist, and as a psychologist you constantly work with statistics, he never bothers. When he says that a person who's without a foundation in archetypal Christianity is less moral, he doesn't bother with the fact that atheists commit less crimes and that a lot of atheists in secular countries are basically like crime-free compared to America. He doesn't bother with this shit. And so in presenting these university trials as kangaroo courts destroying men in the name of social justice, Peterson just doesn't fucking bother with that shit. With statistics or any proof, why bother? I mean, I'm sure it has happened. All kinds of things happen. All kinds of human injustices happen, but Peterson is just kind of full of shit on this. No evidence, no acknowledgement of the complexity of the issue. And now he's going to make a very strange fucking point about alcohol that doesn't add anything to his case whatsoever.
We're not addressing the issue at all. I mean, one of the issues is that people get drunk on college campuses. Drunk people do stupid things. Like 50% of people who are killed are drunk. 50% of people who do the murdering are drunk. The same thing happens with unfortunate sexual encounters. Then you ask yourself, well, why do people drink? Well, why do people drink?
I don't think we need to get there. I mean, would you?
Well, we do, because that's a huge part of what's contributing to the problem.
Would you just mandate end to alcohol on college campuses?
No.
No, of course not, because that would be a solution. It might be a shitty solution and a draconian one, but it would be a solution. Whereas Peterson likes to just offer cultural warrior bullshit, offer his culture warrior points without, but just saying, I don't know how women and men can work together, even though they've been working for the most part fine. In other words, if you didn't know that the Me Too movement has been going on, you wouldn't have noticed anything different at the office. But according to Peterson, there's a crisis. And here again, in other words, if somebody runs over Peterson's wife with a car, he would say this was an unfortunate vehicular incident, because that's how he referred to rape, an unfortunate sexual encounter. And instead of focusing on the perpetrator and people like him, we're just gonna get Toronto to stop drinking. I mean, drunk driving, it's not the decision of the individual person who decided to, drive hammered. It's everybody who drinks. It's it's almost like a cultural shift toward a group as opposed to individual responsibility. Here's the thing about being drunk. You might have stereotypes because I'm an ethnic Russian, but I actually hardly ever drink. It conflicts with some medications I'm taking. But even aside from that, I never really got much out of alcohol. But I was drunk a couple of times in my life, like everybody else. And if you're drunk, like, I could see groping a lady. I'm not saying that I ever did it or that I couldn't restrain myself, but I could see doing one impulsive act or saying something inappropriate, sounding like an idiot. Now, rape isn't just one act, right? It's not just like touching one part of the body or something. It's a number of acts, and no matter how depressed and stupid your brain is on alcohol, I don't fucking buy it. I don't fucking buy that this alleviates responsibility. I think that there are a series of actions you can take, especially when the woman is resisting, but even if she's not, I'm not really buying it. I do remember one time I walked in Seattle, like I walked for a couple of miles drunk, and I just woke up in my apartment and I haven't remembered that journey at all. But still, I think, I just don't see it seems like intent is necessary for rape, even in retarded intent and under alcohol consumption. But more fundamentally, I just reject Jordan Peterson's culture war approach to these issues. He basically, men are from autismus and women are from Venus type of approach. Or, that there is, Peterson basically is implying that, yes, there is a rape culture, but it's fueled by alcohol. And I don't believe in rape culture, I believe in rapists. Like when a female is, a lady is with her boyfriend and he's drunk, she's not afraid that he's gonna, suddenly rape her. He might try to get laid or something, or say something crude or whatever. But rape is not really something that they would be threatened with magically because they got drunk. I think people who rape, are predisposed toward it anyway. They might commit a more stupid rape when they're drunk. But I think that, again, a minority of men rape, and the minority who rape, they usually rape repeatedly. I don't sort of see myself in any way kind of suddenly slipping into raping somebody out of the blue just because I got drunk. I don't see it. Maybe I'm deluded, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. I just fucking haven't seen any evidence of that. I don't know if you ever driven drunk. Not that I would ever do something like that. I would never drive drunk. But hypothetically speaking, if somebody were to drive drunk, even there you kind of have retarded decision making. In other words, you might, skip a light or something or make one mistake, but you're not, in most cases, going to drive on the wrong side of the road. Unless, in most cases, okay? And with rape, you're going to have resistance. Or even if the woman has passed out, you still have to take multiple actions. I don't know. I just don't believe that suddenly, Peterson seems to believe that alcohol kind of destroys any responsibility to the extent that free will exists at all. To the extent that free will exists. Somebody who kills somebody else when they're drunk would be more likely to be violent in the rest of their life. Somebody who's purely into consensual, normal sex, hard for me to imagine them just suddenly raping raping a person. Maybe it's possible, but again, as a scientist, as a hypothetical scientist, you know, Jordan Peterson should give a little bit more statistics and information on that shit. As is, he's just kind of grouping old man, and I'm not interested in being grouped with rapists, you know, for the time being. I know we'll see in the future, I guess. So fuck it, dude. Fuck it, dude. Don't rape. You know, take my rapeless example, my rapeless life as an example for your own life, dude. If you have a hot lady at the office, my dude, head to the bathroom. It's the Ivan's golden rule. You gotta choke that devil, my dude, until the red drains out of it, and then you just go on with your life. Men and women can work together. You see a camel toe at the office. No reason to get all excited, my dude. No reason to comment on that. Just move on with your life, dude. Just move on with your life and do what you do.